All right, we give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yah, name of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. Pick yourself in John chapter 5, verse 39. So search the scriptures and think you have eternal life, and there they will testify of me. You will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. Another shall come in his own name, and you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and receive not the honor that comes from Elohim only? And I think that I will accuse you, the Abba, that is one that accuse you, even Moses in whom you trust. Had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? Hold on, pardon my lateness. Running behind. Come over here to Proverbs chapter 16, verse 26. Proverbs 16, 26. He that labor for himself, for his mouth created of him. Well, that's what we own today. We could have steady kept going about the righteous bold as a lion. Shalom, man. Praise Yahuwah in the name of Yahushua indeed. But we spent 2 weeks on that. When it comes to almost anything, we could spend a multitude of time on them all the time. If we did that, we wouldn't get anything accomplished. So let's take a look at some of these words in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 26. So first thing that I want you to look at is labor. Now, you're going to have two words for labor. Same thing, spelled the same way. The first one is a mal. Well, they're both the same. It's a laborer, a sufferer, a wretched one. You have ayin, meme, and lamad. So you get to know the blood of Mashiach, or you get to know the sufferings of Mashiach. Simple as that. The next thing we're looking at. Is the second amal, which is the labor into toil. Same characters, and we'll just keep the same thing. So in that regard, you have a sufferer who labors for himself. Now, for himself is contained with for his mouth. So you have pay. Y'all already know that. Pay and hay. So behold the word. So you have an individual that suffers in his labor for the word. So I want you to come, and this is very, very simple. And it still take us back to the righteous being bold as a lion. Simply Luke 24 and 25. Not going to be too intricate. All of these things are going to tie into a bevy of different things that we have planned, who are willing, we permit, of verses and places of that we're going to try to look at in this regard. We're also going to look at another verse in chapter 16 immediately after we read this Luke 24 and 25, because if you will see fit, individuals who are willing will have their name added to the scroll that's written in heaven, which of course will cause us because of we could come over here to Luke chapter 24 verse 19, emergence and things of that nature, to rehash a few things in that regard. You know what I mean? So, and all these things, and to tie into other things that we've been looking at over the course of almost 5 months. So let's look at, well, 4 months. Let's look at Luke 4, 24 and 19. He said unto them, what things? They said unto him, concerning Yahushua of Nazareth, which was a prophet mighty in deed and word before Elohim and all the people, Now the chief priests and rulers delivered him to be condemned to death and have crucified him. But we trusted that in he which would have redeemed Yasharal. And besides all this, today is the third day since these things were done. Yea, certain women also of our company made us astonished, which were early at the sepulchre. And when they found not his body, they came saying that they had seen a vision of angels, which said that he was alive. Certain of them which were with us went to the sepulchre and found it even so as the woman had said, but him they saw not. Then he said unto them, O fools and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not Mashiach to have suffered these things to enter into his esteem? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them and all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Now, notice that he said that it ought not this man had to suffer. We see that the first spelling of them all was for a person who was a sufferer. Before we go to Proverbs 16 again, I want to go to Isaiah 53. And then from Isaiah 53, I want to go to John 17. Isaiah chapter 53. We pick it up at verse 3. Isaiah 53 and 3. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid it as it were our faces for him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he had borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Elohim, and afflicted. He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our shalom was upon him, and with the stripes we are healed. So what are we looking at? We're looking at an individual who suffered. Of course, you know, it tells you in verse 10 that it pleased Yahuwah to bruise him, and he saw the travail of his soul, and how the knowledge of his righteous servant would justify many, and that he would make intercession for the transgressors, because he poured out his soul unto death. Now, of course, when you're dealing with getting immersed, he's taking account that you willing to go die with the man. Let me tell y'all something. I know I've told y'all this before over the course of time. Just because you sit down and hear the word don't mean that you done died to your flesh, died to your desires, died to the word, to the world, died to your, died by the word, if I should say, died to your own vain opinions, died to your own vain philosophies, died to your own vain opinions. And conduct yourself as the words say you ought to conduct yourself. Because if we was to look at ourselves and take that stuff and closely line stuff up to every single solitary aspect, would you be pleased with what you saw? You know, it tells you in 2 Corinthians how that you should examine yourselves whether you be in the faith, lest you be a reprobate, lest you've been rejected. You gotta look at yourself, the way that you behave, the way that you make decisions, the way that you interact, and say, is this proper? See, it's always easier us to shift blame onto other people. Or it's always easier to look at the people in the world and say, well, hey, you don't know what I know, but you think and live like they live. So what's the difference between you and them? There is no difference. And the difference is not there because of one thing, because you're not laboring to suffer for the word, because there is no for himself there. It is simply a mall pay. So a sufferer labors for the word. So are you willing to do the work and suffer for the word? That's what you have to ask yourself. That's what you have to ask yourself. A lot of people are not willing to do that. They're not willing to do that. We know that Peter wrote that we ought to suffer in the flesh, like Mashiach suffered in the flesh, and to arm ourselves with that same mind, because when you are willing to do this, you will cease from sin. And you would no longer live to your desires, but you would live to Elohim. How can you say you a righteous man and you live according to your own vain opinion and viewpoint of what you want? How can you as a woman say that you are a virtuous woman, a good woman? You don't even know how to submit. You don't even know how to obey. You don't even know how to follow. You feel like what you desire is greater than all. How are you labor suffering for the and doing the work of the word? Because it's not suffering for you to submit. It's not suffering for you to follow, but you have to lay your life down. That's where the suffering come in at, putting your, to be honest with you, right? I would probably say that 97 to 98% of people of the world are selfish because 97 to 98% of people of the world look at everything from a self-beneficial viewpoint and standpoint. Most people do not want to participate or do anything if they don't get some type of benefit from it. This is the society that we've been raised in. This is the culture that you've been raised in worldwide. It wouldn't matter where you went. Most people are and the word that I desire is escaping me right now. But most people have self-interest. That's like when you look at I noticed this in the street, and then when I ran across the book 48 Laws of Power, and it elucidated that if you wanted people to do things, that you would need to appeal to their self-interest to give some sort of motivation for them to do it. Because very few people would do things for the nobility of the action. There had to be some type of perceived or received self-gratification for them to do it. So when you come down to the service of Yahuwah through his son Yahushua HaMashiach, who is blessed above all, we see that this is a service of where there is no self-gratification. Self-gratification has to be denied and delayed because you have to delay the receiving of your reward because you have hope in he who promised. So therefore you have to suffer and to relinquish and no longer be self-interested. So when you're no longer self-interested, that means that you would live completely and totally over to the individual who has given you an opportunity at life. So therefore you would be a sufferer who works for the word because you're working for the promise of said word. You behold the word, you behold the promise, you behold Elohim. Matter of fact, in Psalms 119, it tells you that, open my eyes that I might behold wondrous things out of your Torah. And the Apostle John made it be known that if you sin, you've never seen him nor known it. Yahushua told you if you don't follow his instructions, you can't receive the Ruach of truth because you haven't seen it nor known it. So a lot of individuals think because you can see him in the text means that you can see him. That don't mean that you can see him. Because if you would see him, then you would become him. You would think like him. You would behave like him. This is why we've always looked at the aspect of whether it's male or female. Ain't no excuse. That's why we looked at him being a car with his father and submitting the same way that a woman has to submit to her husband. You can't turn around and say you a good woman and you can't yield to this man. How? Now I know, but I mentioned this because I seen a lady say this earlier. And she was saying that a woman cannot teach on submission. She has a failed marriage, an unsuccessful marriage, has never been married or never submitted fully to a man in her life. How could she tell another woman about it? And I can't argue with her line of thought in that regard, because that is a learned behavior. And if you've never actually done the behavior, then how could you even begin to instruct somebody else on the behavior? And if you've never learned the behavior, then you wouldn't value that behavior as something that is very important to master. The reason why you wouldn't value it as something important to master, because there's no self-gratification in it for you. And you're in the mind of the average woman in this earth, that doesn't benefit her. Yet they do not realize the benefits that they would receive from performing such acts if they had a righteous man, as many of them claim to possess. So why do I say that? Because there's benefits in yielding to Yahusha, and the benefits are innumerable. But we don't want to go and look at those benefits because some of those benefits you cannot reap immediately. And so therefore you don't desire it. See, a brother's called me earlier today. Say, hey man, when you get baptized, you get you get the spirit right after. I'm like, you can get the spirit without getting baptized. Because the baptism does not dictate that. Your faith dictates that. Your faith dictates that, and your faith dictates your level of obedience and your willingness to labor, your willingness to suffer. Suffering is just not the afflictions of life, Suffering is also the ability to deny, the ability to go without or to afflict your soul as you do on atonement. That's why when you see so many people crying and moaning about fasting on atonement, these are probably the same people who cry and moan about denying themselves of the pleasures of the flesh. They get offended when those things are removed and they cannot have them. And it doesn't matter if you can have them or not. You can have them, but it could be for your own destruction. Your vain opinions and viewpoints and perspectives could be to your own destruction because they're contrary to the word. This is why the word says that that the flesh is enmity against the law of Elohim, because the flesh does not yield. The flesh has no desire to submit to order and to righteousness and to salvation. It refuses to do so because the flesh wants control. So therefore, the flesh will hate Elohim. And that's no different than a woman who refuses to submit. She will hate her husband because he seeks to have control, because he seeks to have order, because he seeks to dictate. And because he will not allow her to dictate, then she hates him. And then that's where it comes in Isaiah 59:1. Now sin has separated you from your Elohim because you despise him. You despise your master because your master will not allow you to rule. And you want him to allow you to rule. And he refuses to do so. This is why so many people hate Yahuwah. Come to John chapter 17. There's no different than with a man. That's why a lot of men resist Yahuwah. Because you hate him. You hate the fact that you cannot control him. You cannot dictate what can and can go on in the house. You're a rebellious son. 17 and forward, if you look. I just want that one verse, to be honest with you. I have esteemed you on the earth, and I have finished the work which you gave me to do. He said, I finished the work which you gave me to do. We know what the work was that he came to do. He was willing to labor for the promise to be fulfilled, that he would suffer in order to redeem this people. Just because I mentioned it last week a few times, but I'm going to go ahead and read it again. Jeremiah 31. Even though I was late, I wasn't planning on being long this evening because it's a rolling thing. Understand? We're trying to roll into a certain thing. And there's no need to draw stuff out just to draw it out. Jeremiah 31:1. But these are things that we have to consider. Because whether we want to accept it or not, your day is coming. Your day is coming. That's whether at the coming of the Lord or the day that he take his breath back. Your day is coming and you must be sealed. And he's not sealing you if you don't want to submit. He ain't doing it. He's not doing it. He's not doing it. Period, point blank. You know what I'm saying? He ain't gonna do it. You don't want to yield. You don't want to obey. You don't want to listen. You don't want to give up control. You don't want to live for the man who died and rose again from the dead from you. You're going to hell. You're going to perish. He's not giving you his spirit. He's just not going to do it. And you could be upset about it, and you can come up with all manner of excuses and thought processes and whatever you want to come up with. But the words say what it say. He's not going to give it to you. He's not going to give it to you because you don't want to give up control. You don't want to give up control because you're too selfish to understand that it's not about you. Because that's what that refusing to submit and control is about. It's your selfishness. You cannot accept the fact it's not about you. Once we understand it's not about you, it's about Yahuwah. It's about Yahusha. He the one who died on the stake, not you. He the one who suffered, not you. What did you do? All you've been doing is what you wanted to do. Do you not understand the love and mercy that's before your face? Do you despise the forbearance of Elohim? Like, sit back and think about it. That's why I had mentioned that, and I related it to Elohim when I said it. That because we that same woman. That you look at the things that you don't like about a man and it drives you crazy. And you never think about what you do that man overlooks. I'm gonna get that Romans 2 in a moment. They say you despise the forbearance of Elohim because you don't consider in your mind the things that you did that he despised, that he overlooked, that he put to the side, and he didn't come and bring the accusation and condemnation to your feet, even though he could have, and you would have been guilty on the spot. He didn't do it. That's the goodness and mercy that he had. That's the love he had. See, we don't understand that type of love. We ain't seen it. You don't understand when somebody can wink their eye. As it says at one time, all men committed worship idols, and Elohim winked at their ignorance. Now he calling men everywhere to repent. You can't even understand the fact that somebody could see you being out of pocket and wink at the fact, I know you don't know me better. I know you ain't never been in this position before. It's okay. I'll look past it because I love you. You don't understand that. See, we don't understand. See, we take that as weakness or enabling or whatever, how we look at it, and not understanding the person give you an opportunity to correct yourself because you're out of pocket. And you know you're out of pocket. But they're trying to bring you in with loving kindness, and you despise that forbearance. But when he bring forth that wrath and go to busting people upside their head, now they want to get upset with him on that when you the one who wrong. But let's look at Jeremiah 31:1. At the same time, saith Yahuwah, will I be the Elohim of all the families of Yasharal, and they shall be my people. Thus saith Yahuwah, the people which were left of the sword found grace in the wilderness, even Yasharal, when I came to cause them to rest. Now, pause. Now, one of the things that we could look at, because we discussed it and we looked at it, about the people in the wilderness. When we looked at how the people fell in the wilderness, they fell in the wilderness because of their unbelief. They fell in the wilderness because of disobedience to people, but there were people who found favor. Now, why do I mention this? Because we know the text say 2/3 going to be cut off and die, and a third going to be brought through the fire, and they're going to be his people. See, even in the midst of the tribulation of the beast, with those people who don't forsake the Kadash covenant, everybody ain't going to fall. Everybody ain't going to fall. Everybody ain't going to fall in that wilderness when that man coming to judge. Everybody ain't going to fall. He said who was going to fall, just the rebels. So the same token where you seen him slay all them people in the wilderness coming up out of Egypt and sparing those who found grace in his eyesight is the same way when he coming back. Those who done found grace, they got that mark in their forehead. He ain't dropping no sword on them. He ain't purging them out. He purging out the rebels. Notice that the key point that we've been looking at the last few weeks that Yahuwah is putting in our heart and mind to understand, stop being rebellious. Stop being rebellious. It's not going to get you anywhere. Stop being a rebel. Stop going against the grain. Stop going on your own path. Stop trying to climb up some other way. The man done blazed the path. Walk in it and find rest for your soul. But you say you ain't going to walk in. You say, I'm going to do what I want to do. Verse 3. You who have appeared of old unto me, yea, I loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, with loving kindness have I drawn you. Again, y'all know, that's why we preach the gospel. That's why we preach the gospel. That's the loving kindness of Elohim. Come over here to Romans chapter 2. I'll get to Proverbs 16 again in a moment. That's the loving kindness, because that's the gospel of reconciliation. See, who is an Elohim of reconciliation? Whenever there's a breach, Yahuwah's desire is that it can be reconciled. That's why I say, blessed are the peacemakers, those who seek to end strife, because that is Yahuwah's desire, is to put an end to all strife and contention. That's his desire. He doesn't care for strife and contention, because peace and order cannot exist in the midst of strife and contention. It can't exist. There's no way. That's why the book tells you cast the scorner and contention will cease. You'll always know who the person who bringing the contention, because all you have to do is remove them. Some people bring contention on themselves because they always contended, because they always rebelling. You know what I'm saying? Bring it on yourself. But nevertheless, Romans chapter 2, right? You pick it up at verse 1. He said, therefore you are inexcusable, O man, whosoever you are that judge, when you judge another, you condemn yourself. For you that judge do the same thing. We were sure that the judgment of Elohim is according to truth against them which commit such things. And think you this, O man, that judge them which do such things and do the same, that you shall escape the judgment of Elohim? Or despise you the riches of his goodness and forbearance and long suffering, not knowing that the goodness of Elohim leads you to repentance? That's what we came there for in verse 4. See, we end up despising the riches of his goodness and forbearance and long suffering. We don't understand that that long suffering is what brings people to repentance. Remember how Peter said that Elohim is not slack concerning his promise, but long suffering towards us, that people may come to repentance. See, at the end of the day, he wants you to see, come over here, Lord. Luke chapter 9, screw it. At the end of the day, he wants you to do the work. So he take his time. You understand that he's taking his time for a twofold reason. Luke chapter 9, I feel like I'm in John. That's the problem. See, he take his time for twofold reasons, and you can see this according to the text. He take his time, number one, because he has compassion on his people, so they might be saved, and number two, so you can reap a full heap of judgment on your head because you disobeyed, because you were unbelieving. So he said he'll take his time, let you get gone here and get crashed and stashed. They're going to stash you right in that lake where the worm dies not, and the fire shall not be quenched. And everybody going to abhor you when they see you. All because you're not willing to do the labor of suffering for the word. You're not willing to do it. We didn't even hit the second half of that verse. Let me get in a second. But Luke 9:57. And it came to pass that as they went in the way, a certain man said unto him, Lord, I will follow you wherever you go. Yahushua said to him, foxes have hole, birds of the air have nests. The Son of Man have not where to lay his head. He said unto another, follow me. But he said, Lord, suffer me first to go bury my father. Yahushua said to him, let the dead bury their dead. Go you and preach the kingdom of Elohim. And another also said, Lord, I will follow you, but let me first go bid them farewell which are at my home. And Yahushua said unto him, no man having putting his hand to the plow, looking back, is fit for the kingdom of Elohim. You know what a lot of y'all problem is? Don't put your hand to do the work. You keep looking back. You don't want to suffer. Go on back with your sinner friends and family and go to hell with them. But clearly that's your desire, because you keep putting your hand to the plow, looking back. That's your problem. You don't want to labor and suffer for the word. So you might as well just stop now. Because the man already told you, you got to sit down and count the price. Well, you has got sufficient enough to pay. You got to sit back and ask yourself, are you willing to pay the cost necessary in order to achieve this goal? You know, and we already went over Proverbs 14, right? We just man wise. If hands bust about that. Proverbs 14:1 said, a wise woman build her house. Average woman don't even know what that means. Average dude don't even know what that means. And we went over and we looked at his wife. We're supposed to build his house. We're supposed to be able to bring people in to build his house. Make it a sure house. Built upon that chief cornerstone. Ain't got no spot, wrinkle, or blemish in it. Because we dedicated and yielding to the vision of our husband. That's building your house. You ain't building your house doing what you want to do, focused on you. You're building yourself. That's not that. You ain't building his house. But that ain't got nothing to do with him. That's for you. That's for you. That's not for the house. When you look at the virtuous woman, what she did, that was for the house. That's why she was praised. That's why her husband spoke well of her in the gates amongst the elders, because she was doing the work for his house. Well, what you think Yahushua gonna be praising you for? Because you did the work for his house and you helped build that. You weren't worrying about building for yourself. That's why I always mention y'all when people talk about God got a plan for my life. And it's always about you. It ain't never nothing for him. How is you being successful in business beneficial to him? How is you achieving your dreams of being a dancer or an actor or a musician or whatever it is you got going across in your mind? How is that beneficial for the building of the house of Elohim? How did that build the house of Yahushua? Please let me know. How did that benefit him? What did that do for him? That did absolutely nothing for him. And the worst part is we deceive ourselves in believing that our achievement is a fulfilling of God's plan. But you know what? In reality, it is, because it's his plan for you to go to hell. You just walking out the script. That was the part that was written for you to burn your stinking butt in hell, and for this person over here to enter in through the gates of the city so they may behold the light, goodness, and salvation of the living Elohim. You're just playing your part in the movie, that's all. But nevertheless, you can't be putting your hand to the plow looking back. Is you going to labor for the word or not? Now come back to the second half of this verse, right? Because I ain't read you the second half of this verse in Proverbs 16 and 26. The second half of that verse say, for his mouth craveth of him. Now that word for crave is a cough. It's something that presses, urges, bends to crave. Also, as with the burden, you have olive, cough, and pay. You're filled with the strength of the Father's word because you crave. Remember, it said in another place in Luke 24, Mashiach said, it behooved Mashiach to suffer. He craved, he longed for it. Well, why would he long for such a painful death? Because he was trying to draw you with loving kindness. See, come over here. I'm just going to boom. Come over here to John chapter 10. That's where Timothy, I'm just going to flip around the gospel where it land. We'll make a light on ourselves. John chapter 10, right? By verse 14. He craved for that. See, he was a sufferer who labored for the word and he craved it. It was his desire. He was pressed. He was urged to it. See, that's what a lot of people messed up at in the game. You don't crave it. You ain't pressed to do it. You don't have an urge to do it. And that's why you unfulfilled spiritually. When I say unfulfilled, you ain't filled with that spirit and you wondering why. But you know why. Because you worry about the wrong things. It's not your top ranked number one priority. You don't seek after it. You don't desire, you don't long for it. You think somebody's supposed to come bring it straight to you at your doorstep. You got to go looking for that like a junkie look for a 20 rock on Phillips Highway. If that's what you want, you got to go look for him. Because he done already came looking for you. Because he done sent people out to bring that call in the street. But you don't come. You come when you feel like coming. You listen when you feel like listening. You do when you feel like doing. See, that's the hallmark of submission. When your husband asks you to do something you don't want to do, or you don't feel like doing, but you go do it anyway. See, that's a hallmark when he say, which one of these obeyed their father? When he say, hey, go out in the field and work. And one say, I'm going to go, and the other didn't go, and he didn't go. And then one said, I ain't going, but he repented of himself and went. Which one did his father's will? The one who went around there. Even though he didn't feel like doing it, he was submitted to his father's will. Let me go and do out here what my daddy told me to do. I don't want to go, but let me go on around there because that's what he told me to do. See, that's the obedient one. Not the one who say, I'm going to do it, but don't do it. Not the one who ain't got no intent on doing it. You're worthless. You're a reprobate. You're a reject. You're good for nothing. You're a son of Belial. You're worthless. See, nobody don't tell us this type of stuff. That's why you get comfortable. I don't even know how anybody comfortable serving Yahuwah to begin with. I don't even know how you get comfortable. But I know how people get comfortable. People get comfortable because you don't feel like you can get tossed away. You don't feel like you can be replaced. You feel like, oh, he got me now. I ain't got to do this and do that. He got to do everything. That's how you get replaced. Because Yahuwah going to move you out of the way and he going to get somebody in there who delights to do his will. I ain't got no use for you. What good is this for you? You don't love me. That's how he look at it. You don't love me. Truth be told, ask y'all this. How you comfortable you ain't got the spirit? You ain't got eternal life, so how is you comfortable? How is you comfortable being marked for death? I don't understand it. Man, look at man. Paul said, I fought the good fight of faith. You supposed to be fighting every day, man. It's real out here. Man, Satan you think Satan taking days off and you around here with your feet up? Man, John chapter 10, verse 14. I'm the good shepherd and know my sheep and am known of mine. As Abba know me, even so I know Abba, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Other sheep I have which are not of this fold. Them must I bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Therefore do my Abba love me, because I laid down my life that I might take it again. No man take it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down. I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received of my Abba. See, that was his urge. It was his desire. It was his desire to die. It was his desire to suffer. Remember what he told him? He said, come eat this Passover with me before I suffer. It was his desire to do it because he delighted to do your will, O Elohim, and his instructions, his law, his Torah, his word was in his mind. See, we read in Revelation 12, we said they didn't love their lives even unto the death. When that word is in your mind, you delight to do everything that's contained in it, even if it costs you your life. You have no fear, no worry, no trepidation, no thoughts, no anxiety about it, because you have hope and trust in the reward. See, many of us, we ain't never had no trust in nobody in your life. You don't expect nobody to do nothing for you. Our God been loving us the whole time we've been alive. We've been ignorant to the fact. And then when we were counted worthy enough to even be able to begin to understand an inch, a centimeter, a millimeter of the love that this man possessed, we take it for granted because you think you can find it anywhere. Or you think you can do what you want to do and it's going to be there when you get back and you're going to be shocked and amazed. And you know what came across my mind got complacency? Look at Daniel. Daniel was a man who was called greatly beloved from the mouth of a Malachim who came straight from Shamahim to tell him this. And Daniel never got comfortable and stopped seeking Yahuwah, even though he was told from heaven that he was greatly beloved. That didn't stop him from seeking after Yahuwah's face. He didn't feel like, well, I'm greatly beloved, I ain't got to stop seeking him. That didn't stop him. See, that's what ends up happening. Because see, Yahuwah look at the fact of how do you seek him? That's when he begins to give things unto you. The things that were revealed unto Daniel was revealed unto him because he saw it. Yahuwah ain't gonna show you nothing, you ain't looking for it. You ain't coming around for it. How you think you gonna get it? You think he's just supposed to bring it to you? See, that's the selfishness. That's the entitlement. You feel like somebody's supposed to come bring that to you instead of you going to it because you said that's what you want. That's what you said you wanted. But you don't go looking for him, and he ain't looking for you. Because he's been in the same place he always been. He ain't going nowhere. But we don't look for him. Remember, we just read that the other day. He said there's no searching of his understanding. We don't seek his understanding, his insight into his will and his way, because we have no desire to yield to it. Because we don't want to suffer for that word. We don't want to do that work because you're going to have to deny yourself. You're going to have to take up that stake, and you're going to have to deny yourself, and you're going to have to do what's right here in 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Come on around here. That's what you're going to have to do. That man told you you're going to have to take up that stake daily, and you don't want to suffer because you're doing it for the word. You're mortifying your members according to the word. That's why you're doing it, but you don't want to do it because you don't want to die. Because there's still a few things I want to do. See, I need to go around and tell my people, back. Let me go bury my daddy. See, you want to put your hand to the plow, but you said you want to look back. What's right there? I thought you left all that behind. I thought you was a new creature. I thought all that stuff you did for you, I thought you knew better. Now you're going to do better. But you just a nigga doing the same thing. You just modify certain areas to appear righteous in the sight of men. But inwardly, you're full of hypocrisy and dead men bones. And you cool with that. And you cool with that. You ain't fool. See, the problem is you worry about fooling people you can see, but you ain't fooling the person you can't see. He sees straight through you. He already told you the eyes of him, that we naked unto the eyes of him when we had to do. Who will see you? You ain't covered. You see your bare butt. Look at this nigga here. I told him take up the garments lest he be found naked. I told you keep your arms, let your garments be white, and never let your head lack oil. You ain't putting no oil on your head and your garments is filthy. You forgot about Yahushua, son of Yehoshaphat, when Yahuwah told, get him a change of clothes. We'll read that in a minute. I praise you. I forgot why I was. It'll come to me. 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Man, we coming up on first fruits. Man, y'all better stop playing around, kicking around tires, window shopping. 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Make it verse 10. Always bearing about in the body the dying of the Lord Yahushua, that the life also of Yahushua might be made manifest in our body. For we which live are always delivered unto death for Yahushua's sake, that the life also of Yahushua might be made manifest in our mortal flesh. So then death work in us, and life in you. We have the same ruach of faith as according as it is written, I have believed, therefore I have spoken. We also believe, therefore speak, knowing that he which raised up the Lord Yahushua shall raise up us also by Yahushua, and shall present us with you. For all things are for your sakes, that the abundance grace might through the thanksgiving of many redound to the esteem of Elohim, for which cause we faint not, though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. You done shub, you converted. So you around here, your outward man is perishing. You know what I'm saying? You die to your flesh daily. You mortify your members. You sacrifice your desires to fulfill the will of your husband. That's the hallmark of a great wife. The ability to fulfill the will of her husband. That's what will make us, Yasharal, a great wife. Because, see, we weren't a great wife the first time. We were rebellious. And we sought control. That's why we made the golden calf, to make Yahuwah in our image. And the fashion that we wanted to make him in. So that we could behave how we wanted to behave. And do what we wanted to do. And to speak our own words. Because we were not concerned with the fulfilling of his vision. And it cost us. Because now you're in captivity to other people. Now you got to serve other people. Instead of serving your God, you got to serve strangers. You got to serve people. You fell into the hands of man. And men are careless and ruthless and unmerciful. When you could have fell in the hands of Elohim, who is merciful, gracious, loving, and forgiving. See, we didn't consider that. And we don't consider it to this day. See, because we don't really take the time to pay attention to the character of our husband. Because we started looking at the things that he asked us to do that we don't want to do. Because we're so busy fulfilling our own desire. That's why I give them over to their own lust and their own way and see what their end gonna be. And it's never profitable. You have to ask yourself that question. I thank Yahuwah that he put it in my heart the minute that the word came, that my way didn't benefit nor profit me at all. So why continue to seek it? And that's what we as a people don't consider, male or female. What did your thoughts, your way, your desires, and your vision get you? It got you nothing. So why wouldn't you just yield to a way that is time proven, tested, and assured? It's been stamped from the foundation of the world. It is fail-proof. It cannot lose. It cannot fail. It cannot be bended or destroyed or altered. It is enduring and everlasting. Why not just yield to that? Why not just take hold to that? Your way don't work. It don't work. Well, we stupid. So we try to force it, make it work. Because we swear because we got to prove that it can work. We're destroying ourselves. We're destroying generations of offspring because of selfishness, vanity, and pride. And it's stopping us from the experience, the goodness, and the grace of Elohim by the receiving of his Ruach HaKadosh. Come back over here to Proverbs 16:23. Proverbs 16:23 says, the heart of the wise teaches mouth and add learning to his lips. Now just sit there and think about that. Just sit there and think about that, because that goes to verse 26. So, of course, the heart, you got your mind, you got Shakam for wise, which makes you a wise man, you're shrewd. He teaches mouth, which is Sakal, which is to be circumspect, to be prudent, to be wise, to understand, to have insight, and to teach. So he has insight when he speaks. The wise man teaches with insight. Then he adds learning to his lips. So when we look at learning, you know that's Lakak, that's more insight. So, of course, you know the heart of the wise. Well, what makes this heart of this man wise? The fear of Yahuwah. The fear of Yahuwah is because you've yielded to that word. So therefore, your mouth is out of your mouth is coming the word, because this is what you've taught your mouth. And now you're still adding insight to your lips because you're adding the gospel. You're still adding more words. So therefore, you're willing to suffer and labor for the word. And therefore, you have an urging or a craving for it. So you desire to die. And I ain't talking about just in the physical sense. You desire to die. See, come this back to Matthew 16. Then we going deep. Just keep it simple this evening. Ain't no need to fight this here to be quote unquote complex or this, that, there, and the third. Just straight to the point. 16 and 20. Matter of fact, 16 and 16. Because we have to keep it very, very simple and just straight to the point. And the point of the matter is, if you are not craving to do the work of suffering for the word, then how do you expect to attain the promise? How do you expect to attain the resurrection of the dead? How do you expect to accomplish that? Seriously. Like I said, we coming up on first fruits. We about 3 weeks and some change away. And what was first fruits about? It was all about a seed that went into the ground, came out 3 days later, and in the course of quote unquote maturation after the time of cleanliness had been fulfilled, that a blessing from on high was poured out as was promised. And then the first fruits of those receiving the Ruach have received it to testify of the goodness and greatness, loving kindness and graciousness that the living Elohim has bestowed upon us through the sufferings of Yahushua HaMashiach. You know what I'm saying? So because the prophets of old and Moses had foretold of this suffering, now we have a chance at a salvation that your fathers did not know, that many do not understand. You can grasp hold unto it. But when you look at all the nuanced things, like I say, man, the word is the word. The word don't change. So therefore, the teachings don't change. So therefore, if you expect to hear something so fantastical and great every time you sit down, then you're just a simpleton. Because Yahuwah don't change. He the same as he was yesterday. He the same today. He going to be the same forever. The word's not changing. The principles don't change. The concepts don't change. You should know this because Deuteronomy is the rehearsal. He sat back and told him the same law he had already told him. Because it got to stay to the forefront of your mind. It's got to be in your remembrance. You can't sit back and be like, I mastered this. I need to learn something new. See, you ain't, that word ain't never going to be profitable for you. And the most time, most people who say they got to learn something new ain't even master what they learn. Because they still ain't got no control over their desire. They still don't yield to Yahuwah's will. They still don't trust and believe. They still don't obey. So what is it you trying to learn, nigga? What is it you trying to learn? Other than going to hell. And for what? And for what? Nevertheless, 16 and 16. Well, I skipped over it, but it doesn't matter. And Simon Peter answered and said, you are the Mashiach, the son of the living Elohim. Yahushua answered and said, Baruch are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have revealed it unto you. Have not revealed it unto you, excuse me, but my Abba, which is in Shamahi. And I say unto you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my house, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. I will give unto you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever you shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever you shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. He charged the disciples they should tell no man that it was Yahushua the anointed. From that time forth began Yahushua to show unto his disciples that he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed and be raised again the third day. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, be it far from you, Lord, this shall not be unto you. But he turned and said unto him, Peter, get you behind me, Hashatan, you are an offense unto me. You savor not the things that be of Elohim, but those that be of men. Now, we talked about this very many times over the years, but in the concept and point of what we're talking about tonight, he told him, you're being selfish because it's my duty and my desire to give myself up because it's pleasing to my Father. This is what I'm going to do. See, men desire the things that are of themselves. So they're only going to think of themselves. Those that are Elohim desire the things that are via Elohim. Therefore, they put Elohim before themselves. So what they want to do is inconsequential in regards to what their Father in heaven wants should be done. Now we have to take on that same mind, whether male or female. You know, for the woman, it's going to be manifest because you're supposed to look at your husband as unto the Lord. And if you can't even look at him as unto the Lord, you're not going to submit to the Lord. I don't care what you say. You can try to convince yourself. You can try to convince your friends. But if you can't do the same things that you would do to Yahushua to your husband, you're not going to do it to Yahushua because he gave you the instruction to do it to your husband. And if you can't do it to your husband, you're not going to do it to him. You're not. You're just not. This is what it is. Because we already, as a body of people, are supposed to be looking at Yahusha in that fashion. You know what I'm saying? See, we as a men will skirt behind it and say, see, woman, this is what you're supposed to do, but you Yahusha's wife, and you're not doing it either to your husband. So when you come at her, you a hypocrite because you're requiring of her something that you don't require of yourself, which is the biggest piece of selfishness that most people exist on this earth, because you require of people of things that you don't even do yourself. You get upset with people about things that you're not even doing yourself. So how dare you open your mouth and speak on it? You can only speak on it if you're doing that. To be able to hold that against somebody else, if not, you can't speak. You can't get mad at your wife for certain things and you're not doing the same thing. How you gonna rebuke her for that? That same judgment gonna come back in your chest, and vice versa. You can't complain this man don't do this and don't do that, and you're not doing it either. You're a hypocrite. Therefore, your words are invalid. So we can't come at this woman and say, submit to your husband, and you not submitting to your husband as a man, you're not submitting to Mashiach. You're a hypocrite. Your words are invalid. See, the whole thing that we sit back and we were failing to do is you want to do what you want to do. See, as a man, he can do whatever he want to do. In regards to running that household, it's his house. How do we know this? Because this is Yahuwah's house. He said, the earth is mine and the fullness thereof. Yahuwah do what he want to do. Don't matter if you don't like it. Don't matter if you don't understand the method to the madness, so to speak. He do what he want to do. It's his house. See, that offends us because you want to have a say in how the house is run. Who do you think you are to look at the living Elohim and say, I want to say? Hear me. Hear what I have to say. Hear my suggestions. If he wanted your suggestion, he would have asked you for it. He would have asked you for it. You know what I'm saying? He would have asked you for it. Period. And we can see that whether it would be Moses or Abraham, or even if he didn't ask you for it, you would have to know how to come to him in humility to make your supplication known. Most of us probably go to Yahuwah in prayer by way of Yahushua and make demands instead of humbly beseeching him, making a request for his great name, his mercy's sake. See, our minds are all messed up in the head and wonder why he don't move on our behalf. He moves because he's merciful. But a lot of stuff he don't move on our behalf because we just a disrespectful group of unbelieving bastards. You hear me? Zechariah chapter 4, man. We have to swallow that pill, man. Because we're a disrespectful group of people when it comes to our husband, when it comes to our God, when it comes to our master, when it comes to our maker. As he said in Isaiah 48, we declare his name, but not in truth and righteousness. We do it in hypocrisy and expect this man to stamp it. It's Zechariah 3. My apologies. 3 and 1. I'll end it right here. Excuse me. And he showed Yahushua the high priest standing before the Malachim of Yahuwah, Hashatan standing at his right hand to resist him. Yahuwah said unto Hashatan, Yahuwah rebuke you, O Hashatan. Yahuwah have chosen Jerusalem, rebuke you. Is not this brand plucked out of the fire? Now Yahushua was clothed with filthy garments and stood before the Malachim. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, take away the filthy garments that are from him. And he said unto me, and unto him he said, behold, I cause your iniquity to pass from you. I will clothe you the change of raiment. And I said, let them set a fair mitre upon his head. So he set a fair mitre upon his head and clothed him with garments. And the Malachim of Yahuwah stood by. Now, why did we look at this? He said, you like a brand plucked up out of the fire. He's pulled you up out of the fire. Like he told you in Revelation chapter 3, I counsel you to buy me gold tried in the fire. Now you've been made pure. He said, take them filthy garments off them. Yahushua said, you clean from the words that I have spoken unto you. In the book of Acts, it say, go get baptized and wash away your sins. Change your clothes. Take that filthiness of the flesh off and put on this change of garment that you wouldn't even want spotted by the flesh. Change your clothes. Change your clothes. See, that means you have to change your mind. You have to change your heart. You have to change your desires. You have to change your viewpoint. Everything got to be about your husband. It's got to be about Yahushua. That's what it has to be. And when it is that, then you will crave to do the work of suffering for the word. You'll crave it. You'll long for it because of the reward that will come from it, which is everlasting life. Now, whether you believe in everlasting life or not, in the resurrection of the dead, well, time will tell, because Yahuwah will make manifest the hearts of all men. And he'll do it in his time. It won't be a day late. It won't be a day early. It'll be right on time, and men's hearts will be made manifest. You want your heart to be, matter of fact, 1 John chapter 4, I believe. It is chapter 3. 1 John chapter 3, verse 18. He said, my little sons, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth. Hereby we know that we are of the truth and shall assure our hearts before him. For if our heart condemn us, Elohim is greater than our heart and know all things. Beloved, if our heart condemn us not, then we have confidence towards Elohim. And whatsoever we ask, we receive of him, because we keep his commandments and do those things that are pleasing in his sight. Now notice what he said, right? If our heart condemn us not, which goes back to the wise man's heart. Teach, hold on, because I'm saying I don't think that page is in there. And it is. Remember what he said, right? The heart of the wise teaches mouth and add learning to his lips. So when your heart don't condemn you, because you've taught this wise man, your heart, you don't taught your lips, taught your mouth. You don't add learning to your lips. You've added insight of the word to your heart. You understand. Therefore, you do the things that pleases him. That's your concern. You're not concerned about pleasing yourself. In conclusion, when Yahushua was speaking to his apostles in Luke chapter 17, he told them that when you get finished doing everything that you've done, just say you are unprofitable servant, just doing what it is that is your duty to do. A lot of us don't have that understanding of being unprofitable, that you're not doing something to get something in return. Because when you do something to get something in return, you're doing business. Yahuwah don't do business. When you do something with the looks and thought of getting something, that's not love, and that's not care, and that's not concern. That's business. That's what that is. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. But that's what it is. Yahuwah didn't do anything for us looking to get something in return from us. He told you that. Samuel told you that. That's why he tell you to love each other in the same fashion. He said, if you do it, you'll get paid back at the resurrection of the dead. But see, you don't want that, because you want that instant payment, because you've been taught to be self-interested. That if you do something, then this person is supposed to reciprocate what you've done back to them, or they're not your friend. Now, understanding that Yahuwah gave you many benefits before you could even reciprocate back belief and obedience. He didn't ask for you to pay that back. You have to shift your mind into a godly fashion. You have to shift your mind into godly thinking. That man told you that if you receive a prophet, you'll receive a prophet's reward. And if you receive a righteous man, you'll receive a righteous man's reward. And the book shows you that type of stuff. It shows you what happens when you receive those who are the household of the faith, seeking nothing in return. Yahuwah shines his face on you. You'll get a reward and a gift and a repayment that can't be quantified in material possessions. But see, that's the mind of Elohim. We have to take on that mind, that thought process. That's the only way we're going to live and be saved. But hallelujah for Yahushua in the word. I appreciate everybody's time. I bless everybody out the house of Yah, in the name of Yahushua. Again, we're coming up on Pentecost. So you know what happens. We have to, by the grace of Yahushua, it's always Ruach centered, faith centered. But even more so, the closer and closer you draw to that, it's the commemoration of the giving of the gift of life. We just commemorated your sins being remitted, and now you've got to commemorate you getting the gift of life. Think about that as you approach that. You know what I'm saying? Everything ain't just about skinning and grinning. You want to skin and grin in hell? Like, come on, man, be serious, be real with yourself. Your life's on the line, and we playing games with it. You know what I'm saying? And we playing games because we selfish, we vain, and we proud. Period. That's the holdup. You're selfish. You want what you want. You want to have control. You want to dictate. You want to do what you want to do. You're vain because you care about worthless things. You're proud because you don't listen. You refuse to humble yourself. You refuse to yield. You refuse to follow. You refuse to do things that don't benefit you. And that's why we're going to end up in a place that we don't want to be if we don't get our minds together and understand the will, plan, and perfection, grace, loving kindness, forgiveness, and mercies of the living Elohim who is blessed forever. But again, blessings out there. Y'all name it Yahushua, man. I'll keep your mind focused and steadfast on the salvation of Yahuwah. Yahuwah will and we'll pick it up on the Shabbat and do it again. And until that time, peace.